language skill, that is writing. So in this section, we will have four parts, including a very quick introduction of writing and the three aspects of it. And then we will move to examine the definition of second language writers. And then we will move to the second language writing instruction. So when talking about writing, it has been a concern for linguists, applied linguists, from being a mere representation of speech and not really a goal in language teaching and learning, but now it has become an interdisciplinary field of inquiry. And along with speaking and signing, writing is also a mode of linguistic expression and communication, which reflect the knowledge, the perspective, and the communicative competence of the language user. And in this sense, writing refers to both a noun and a verb. It can be the written text and also the act of producing the written text. And there are three aspects of writing that I want to mention. The first one is relational aspect. The second one is strategic aspect, and the last is textual aspect. Let's move to the first one, that is relational aspect. And this refers to the relationship between elements of writing. So we have four elements, which are writer, reader, text, and reality. So four elements here will play fundamental role in constructing a written text, and it also the linguistic have different viewpoints on these elements, and later on this will lead to different approaches in writing instruction. And it said that writing is always impeded in rhetorical situations. So when talking about the rhetorical situation, we can understand it as a particular social and material condition where the written written communication takes place. So to the first element of writing, that is writer. So in the writing, the writer will show their view of reality and also construct their discursive identity. And the writer may also have certain genre knowledge. So this kind of knowledge will particular written discourse in a way that the writers know some kinds of possible responses to a particular writing task, and the reader in how to interpret the text. And also the writer is not only singular. Two or more writer can co-author a text. In some cases, a committee or even organization can co-author a text, and in this way the discursive identity is affected, mostly because of the feedback and the interventions from other writers. And move to the second element, which is reader. So the same as writer, reader can be one or many person, and in some cases the writer will be the first reader who will provide suggestion for revision. And in the case of private diaries, the writer will be the first and the only intended reader. And although it is the writer who have the most profound role in constructing a written text, reader also had a way of affecting it. For example, the reader can be an or a critic. Also, the reader can be the coach or evaluator. The two roles here may be the role of teacher in the writing classroom. Also, there can be the learner. I think it is referred to the situation where the student who analyze and learn from the model text, and also reader can be act the role of bystander. And we have also another element which is text. So it is said that the text is always situated in a network of other texts. In terms of explicitly, we can take an example of a reply to an email, or in terms of implicitly, we can look into the literary work. Meanwhile, other texts will also provide a pool of discursive features by which the writer can use to achieve the same discursive effects, and in a way that reader can know how to interpret the text. And the last element is reality. So reality can be interpreted in many ways. In fact, the writers can accept the reality by going through different interpret layers. Although we have the physical reality, we have also other social and discursive reality that people will communicate and agree upon this person. And because different people will have different way of conceive and relate to the reality. So it is the responsibility of writer to first construct a version of his reality and then negotiate with the readers. So we can see that the process of writing is quite complex because we have to consider the four elements. So to overcome this complexity, so writer had to rely on some strategies. So which is why we will move to another aspect of writing, that is strategic aspect. So this refers to the use of various strategies for developing and communicating ideas. So for most cases, especially ESL learners, it's quite useful for teachers to have implicit instruction for the strategies that the learner can internalize and practice it. So along the process of writing, writer can adopt various kinds of strategies. The first step is to assess the rhetorical situation and identify the primary purpose of writing. So the emphasis can be on the writer. In this way, the writer will adopt the strategies of clustering, reading, and free writing. Or the emphasis can be on the reader. In this way, the writer had to look at the dissonance and the conflict within the community. And also the focus can be on the text and the reality. In the next step, once the topic is identified, then the writer has to also explore, develop, and maybe even redefine the topic. So some writer may use the 5W and 1H, that is what, where, when, why, and how. Or also the writer can read on the topic to explore more about it. Or maybe some writer can visually map out the ideas on a paper. And also the writer has to identify, develop, and assess rhetorical abuse. So when talking about rhetorical abuse, we have three kinds of rhetorical abuse. That is the readability abuse, the affective abuse, and the rational abuse. So the focus on which abuse will heavily depend on the aim and the genre of writing. And also the the writer has to move to the state writing. And the last is revision. So we move to the materialization of the two aspects. As is the textual aspect of writing. So it refers to the use of available discursive repertoire in the process of writing. The writer had to show the meaning of their ideas. I also have to create the meaning that the reader can navigate in the text, and also the meaning about the relationship between the reader and the writer. Also, the text can also have additional meaning through typographical features like this one on the slide. Also, we have some important qualities of a text, that is the cohesion and the coherence. So for cohesion, sentences must be connected by cohesive devices so that the reader can follow the text easily. And in terms of coherence, this term is quite controversial because what is considered as coherent will differ from one discursive community to another one. So to assess the qualities of the text, we need to put into consideration the context in which the text is written and also its attended audience. So that is all about the writing. In this part, we will take a look into the definition of second language writers. So in this part, we will take a look at the second language writer and foreign language writers. So the first one is a broader term. It refers to anyone who writes in a language other than their native language. This will include both second language and foreign language. Also, it will also include the fifth, the third, the fourth, or the fifth language. Meanwhile, the second one refers to writers writing in language where the target language is not commonly used. This is the case of English use of Vietnamese EFL learners in Vietnam. And also, unlike speaking, writing have to learn through implicit instruction, especially in academic genres. As we can see, recently there is a rise in concern of writing instruction in academic context, and this concern will then lead to an approach in teaching writing skill that we will discuss later. So this will be the end of my part. In the next part, we will present some approaches regarding second language writing instruction, including the underlying theory, the related research, and the pedagogic implementations. So please welcome Thủy.
Hello everyone, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, so I will show my screen. Here. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so you know that there are so in this section we will survey some major developments in second language writing in the 50 years in the past 50 years also regarding the theory, research, and pedagogy. So you know that in recent years there are many major approaches and orientation that attract attention of leading second language writing professionals. So now we will go over the approaches in the next section. So the first one is composition. Control composition can be seen as an offshoot of audiolingual approach to language teaching because it shares.
Chưa có lên slide đó Huệ.
Ủa mọi người có thấy không ạ?
Em chưa trình chiếu á Thị ơi, trình chiếu đi.
Em
bà bấm trình chiếu trước rồi xong bà hãy share cái slide trình chiếu đó.
Trình chiếu trước. Nhưng mà hôm qua vẫn từ mọi người nhé. Anh ơi, cái này sao?
Em share toàn bộ màn hình đi Thị ơi.
Dạ. Chết rồi, nó bị đứng máy. Dạ mọi người đợi em xíu, nó bị đứng máy đó. Chết rồi. Từ từ. Để. Dạ mọi người đợi em một chút rồi, tại nó bị. Sao kỳ vậy? Nó bị lag rồi. Đúng lúc đi. Để em ra rồi vào lại được không ạ?
Được.
Dạ rồi, để em vào lại thôi, các mọi người xem được không ạ? Được chưa ạ? Mọi người nhìn thấy chưa ạ?
Em vẫn chưa trình chiếu em ơi. Em trình chiếu á, mới chưa trình chiếu đó. Em share toàn bộ màn hình đi.
Dạ. Sao được? Không có hai được. Rồi mọi người thấy chưa ạ?
Rồi.
Okay, so control composition can be seen as an offshoot of audiolingual approach to language teaching because it shares two of these approaches central tenets. The first one, that language is speech, and the second is language learning is habit formation. So, in the classroom of control composition, the primary focus is on formal accuracy. The teacher will employ a control program of systematic habit formation. She will try to avoid errors, for example, first language interference, and then the second function is to reinforce appropriate language behavior. So, practice with previously learned discrete units of language is privileged over concerns of idea, organization, or style. The central activities in the class will be imitation and manipulation of carefully constructed and created model passages. So, the goal of writing is habit formation. The text will be seen as a collection of vocabulary and sentence patterns, and that is negligible concern for audience and purpose. So there are examples of activities in the control composition class that, for example, the student have to fill the blank with the given words, or they will given a passage. For example, in the passage, a person describes their daily routine. For example, I wake up at 6, then I have breakfast and go to school, and the student will be required to rewrite the passage in which they retell the story of other person. They will have to change the subject from I to a name, for example, Nam or Thư, and have to pay attention to the form of the verb, the tense of the verb from simple tense. However, Later, there comes a realization that there was more to writing than just constructing grammatical sentences. So the results of this realization that the appearance of the paragraph pattern approach. This approach emphasizes the importance of organization at the above sentence level. There are two concerns of this approach. The first one is the logical construction and arrangement of discourse form. The primary interest is that the paragraph elements such as supporting sentences or topic sentences, as well as the options for its development, for example, compare and contrast. And the second concern of this approach is the essay development. The focus is on larger structural entity and organizational patterns. In this approach, classroom procedure focus on form, and writing is a matter of arranging sentences and paragraphs into particular patterns. They have to develop skills including identifying patterns, internalizing patterns, and producing the pattern too. So I also give some example of the activities in this approach. For example, for the basic level, students have to choose among alternative sentences within the context of a provided paragraph or a text. Higher level, they have to read and analyze a model text and then apply the knowledge to write to a parallel piece of original writing. Or they also have to list, group relevant facts, develop topic and supporting sentences of the facts, and then put together in outline and compose their text from that outline. However, the satisfaction with the control composition and paragraph pattern approach that there is because they think that the two approaches cannot engender thought as well as its expression. So another approach appear, that is process approach. Writing process is, that this approach seeing the writing process of a recursive, exploratory, and generative process where ideas were discovered and made. Guidance and intervention was preferable to the imposition of organizational patterns or lexical constraints. And the advance of this approach had prompted research on composing that focus on person and process involving writing. About the person, that there are a lot of research about many variables that affect writers, such as the transfer of L1, language, writing ability, gender, language style, or reading appetite. On the process, there are research on planning, drafting, revising, editing, translating, backtracking, etc. In the classroom, teachers have to provide and maintain a positive and encouraging collaborative workshop environment. There is a call for ample time and minimal interference to allow students to work through their composing process. The objective is to have learners to develop viable strategies for getting started, drafting, revising, editing, and the products of the writing is not a primary concern. It's just a second concern, and the form is a function of its content and purpose. So it's up to the writer to identify a text and the audience. However, there are some criticism of the process approach, in which that they call for many factors have to be taken into consideration, including like developing an outline for academic discourse, or what constitutes a reparation for academic work, or nature of high-scale academic writing style, or give the student better ideas of how university writing is evaluated, or the social cultural aspects of academic writing. That is the reason why the genre-based approach appear. So this approach, in this approach, the emphasis, the focus is shifted from the writer to the reader in academic and professional discourse communities. So there are a lot of research on genre, about the treatment of genre as well as the research of individual genre. So the emphasis is placed on the production of the text, and the text is used as a response to a particular writing type that fits a genre. However, there are some issues. There are a number of important issues in second language writing that exceed the tradition and the approach that have been described above, including programmatic issues, contextual issues, disciplinary issues, and political issues. In programmatic issues, that you know that the most important issues is the assessment of writing, the choice of writing types, as well as how to evaluate a writing essay or writing task is really difficult. For contextual issues, you know that there are a lot of contexts for writing for such like academic course, cross-cultural composition, remedial writing, and in disciplinary issues, the nature of L2, for example, the nature of L2 as an area of research, and it has to be related to other fields. And recent years witness the issues that come from political aspect, that the social that we have to consider the social constructionist inquiry, and that will come to conclusion that no approach or orientation that will work with all the people, all the places. So there are some issues that we have to determine. And now, and the final slide, there is the references, the book. We refer to the book that we use for our presentation. Thank you for listening.